Alright, so in this video, we are going to talk about animation. So there are different kinds of animations in Android, but the ones that we're going to talk about in this video is the frame animation. The frame animation allows us to animate using frames, right? So we can have frame 1, 2, 3, 4, and we use our code to animate frame by frame, all right? So what I did here, I created a new project called frame animation, and I'm going to do a few things here before we start. We're going to go to res here, drawables, and I've already have items that I'm going to do, I'm going to right click here and go to reveal in finder. And there we go. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy and paste a few things inside of our drawable here that I have on my computer. So there we go. So now what I'm going to do, if I look inside of our drawable, now we have a few items here. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these items here. So these are our frames. So we have B1, B2, B3, and B4. So we'll animate this bat here. So it will look like it's flying. And now we have also another XML file here called bat_anim for animation XML. So open that one. So this is what I created earlier, so you don't have to go ahead and type in front of you because it can be a little bit boring. But the idea here is that we created an animation list XML here, and we added this property one shot to false. This just allows this animation to keep going until we tell it to stop. That's why we say false. We don't want it to be one shot, we want it to continue. And then inside we have an item. We have a few items here which correspond to each of our frame images that we have on our drawable. So as you can see here, the item number 1, we go to drawable, we get the B1, which is the first one here, okay? And then we do the same for 3. So I just got rid of the last one here because the image is of it when it dies, so we don't need really to show that, okay? But if you want, you can uncomment this, right? And then this will be included, the 4th one. Now we have duration here. Duration is just the time that it takes to play one frame. How long will this frame, each frame, be animated? Okay, so we put 80 milliseconds. These are all in milliseconds. Okay, so it's pretty fast. And we can adjust as we go, obviously. We're going to go inside of activity main here, go to design. Let's get rid of all of this stuff here. So one thing we're going to do, we are going to put an image view in the middle here. That's where our bat will reside. So say here image view and drop right here. Okay, but now let's just go ahead and just put an image here. Let's go ahead and put the first one, and we'll get rid of that. Okay, so let's go save this and give it a quick run. We should be able to see the app here. So there we go. So we have our bat. Right, so the idea is to tap or click anywhere on this screen, and then we should see our bat here animating by frame. Okay, so how do we then start animating? Because we have everything set up. So we're going to go to our main activity, and at the top here, what we're going to do, we are going to instantiate a few things here. First of all, actually, before we go anywhere, let's go back here. Let's give it an ID. I forgot to give an ID. Let's call this bat ID. Okay, so now it has ID. We can reference it by. So here we're going to say private. We're going to invoke an animation drawable because we're going to animate using drawables, all of these images or frames that we added over there. Let's call this bat animation. And we're going to say private, and then we're going to say image view. And let's just call this image bat image. That works. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up our bat image, which will be this image here. So we can say bat image. So we're going to find view r.id.batid. There we go. And now what we're going to do, we are going to set the background resource to that drawable _animation XML. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to say bat image that set background resource. Okay, so we're going to say here r.drawable, and we're going to go get the bat animation there. Okay, so now we're grabbing this file here, which has all of our animation instructions here. That's all we're doing here. And next, we're just going to instantiate our animation drawable here. So we're going to say bat animation. It's an animation drawable type. We're going to cast it and say bat image dot get image drawable, just like that. Dot get background. So we're getting this, the background of our bat image here. So we're getting this image, okay, which is all of this. Now what we're going to do is we are going to override a method called onTouch event. Okay, now this onTouch event is a method that is part of our activity here, although it's not here, but we can actually invoke it. So the way we can find override methods, we simply say Command N, and then we go down to override methods. You click this, and the quickest way to do, you can start typing. I know this is going to be onTouch. Look at that, and we can see highlighted here we have onTouch event. This is the one that we want, so select that one and click OK. Now this one here will allow for us to be able to tap anywhere in our activity here on our screen, and then grab that event, and then we can do things with that event. So here, very simply, what we can do, we can just say bat animation dot start, just like that. If we save this and give it a run, there we go. We tap and look at that. The animation is just happening. As you can see, the animation keeps going and going and going and going, which is fine. And we have a problem. We have that image that we added here on the top, and it's showing. So we can't really quite see the animation fully. So let's fix that. I'm going to stop this. Let's go to our activity and go to text here. We're just going to go ahead and get rid of this source. That way it's empty. So there's nothing there. Okay. Let's run this. So look what happened here. So we did remove that image source, right? So we weren't pointing at any image. As you can see here, we don't have an image, but however, we're showing here an image. The reason being is because, as you can see here, we are setting the animation here to the image that we got here, and we set it as a background. So what's happening, it's going back here and getting the first drawable, the first image here, which is this one here, okay, and is putting exactly in the middle of our screen. Okay, all of that is happening dynamically. The moment that the application is open, that's when that happens, which is exactly what we want to happen. Okay, so now you can see it's much easier. So tap here and it's running. That's perfect. So that looks great. There's nothing wrong with that. However, you see that this keeps running infinitely, which is not a desirable behavior. So what we need to do now, we are going to add a new piece of code that will allow us to control how long this animation will run, and will also allow us to make sure that at a certain point we want this animation to stop. What we need to do now, we are going to use a handler class that will have this post delayed method class here, instantiations. Okay, so handler, I'm going to call this mHandler. It's going to be equal to new handler. So a handler class allows us to do a few things, but one of which, like I said, is going to allow us to post delayed, or making sure that we can control when this application should stop, or for how long should this application run. Okay, so let's do this. So now that we have our handler, we are going to do the following. We're going to say mHandler dot post delay. Now this post delay here has a few parameters that we haven't talked about. A runnable. So runnable is a class that allows us to tap into threads. So we haven't talked about threads yet, but this allows us to make sure that all these animation is not bogging down the whole system, or bogging down the main thread. Okay, and we'll talk more about this, but just think of this as a way for us to say, okay, we're going to create a new traffic or a new highway just for what we want to happen in this animation. That way, if there's problems or there's some other issues, we are not bogging down other systems that are working in our applications. Okay, there's more to that, but just let's run with that for now. So we're going to say post delay, we're going to say new runnable, just enter, and the runnable has a run overridden method. This is where we put the code that will run as we go through. Okay, and of course here for our runnable, we said it's going to be post delay. We have to pass in here how long will it take for this to run. Okay, so now we have 500 milliseconds, which corresponds to 5 seconds. Okay, so this animation now will run for 5 seconds before it stops. So now here we are going to stop the animation. How do we stop the animation? We say bat animation.stop, just like that. Okay. So what happens here now is that we are going to, the moment people touch the screen, we're going to start, and then this will be run. So 5 seconds later, we are going to call our bat animation.stop. All right. So save this. Let's give it a run. And there you go. Tap. Look at that. And it will stop very soon here. There we go. See? Very, very nicely done. Very cool. So we can keep doing it, and we have our animation by frame. Okay. So play around with this concept. You can go ahead, of course, and change these images here to something else. But as long as it has this different frames that can animate, you can go ahead and change it, and then to something else that you may find online. Okay. And play around with this concept. It's pretty fun. All right. Perfect. So I'll see you in the next video.